everything in your life is a manifestation, because the frequency that you are dwelling at, the thoughts that you are having, is manifesting into your reality at all times. And so then it really becomes about, are you manifesting by purpose versus are you manifesting by default? Most people believe that we are our thoughts, right? So it's like, whatever I'm thinking, I am. But what's really happening is this: we are not our thoughts, we are the receiver of our thoughts. And there's so much confusion out there in the world about love is something to do with somebody loving you, you know, even unconditional love, and it's to do with taking care of someone, or it's to do with somebody saying I love you, or how they treat you. And if you were to strip all that back for a second, right, and think to yourself, what's really going on here? Because any emotions that you are feeling is coming from within you. When you feel happy, that's coming from within you. When you feel anger, that's coming from within you. The same thing with love. That is an emotion that you're experiencing viscerally within you. And really my intention is for people to experience what true love is. Right? And to know that it's all within them, and for them to be able to access that on demand whenever they please.
This is American Real. I am Roger Brooks. My guest today is Priya Patten, relationship coach. Priya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger. I'm really happy to be here. As mentioned, I really resonate with what you're doing. So yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you. No, and the feeling is mutual. I think your Instagram page caught my attention because of your content, of the messages that you put out there, the wonderful messages. And that was actually the first thing I wanted to talk about. Is you put up a post recently about trust, you know, and the importance of trust and the meaning of trust. And I thought it would be neat to get your perspective. Here we are, two people that never met. I contacted you through Instagram to see if you would come on to our show. And we have this trust factor of being together today to conduct this interview. So can you talk a little bit about that from your perspective of how do you trust people?
Sure. So let's start with that video that you were referring to on my IG page, which is to do with trust. And really in there, I defined my perspective of what trust is. Because there's a lot of noise out there about trust being able to trust your partner, being able to trust your friend, being able to trust your coworker. And I invited people to think about trust as trusting yourself. So it all begins with trusting yourself, trusting the guidance that is coming from within you, because there is this infinite intelligence that is always flowing to you and through you. And it's about, are you in receiving mode to tap into that? To allow yourself to be guided by your intuition, meaning your intuition could say, hey, it feels good to go towards this thing, or hey, it feels good to move back from this thing. So like, yes, it feels good to go right, or it could be that, hey, it doesn't feel good to go left. So in the same way, when you connected with me, It was really about, what I did was I had a look first about what you're about and what your message is about, and I really resonated with it. And so for me, it was a hell yes. And it was about trusting that intuition, trusting that resonance within me, although I don't know you, to be like, hey, I'm happy to be on today. I'm happy to come and have a chat with you and to just, you know, go with the flow here. But it really came down to trusting my intuition, trusting the guidance that is within me, and knowing that I'm always being guided. So there's nothing to fear.
Great, I love that. And I think about, even as we're growing up, our elders or our parents tell us, trust your intuition, as you said, trust that feeling, trust your inner self. And today more than ever, right, with so much content out there, we're inundated with media and messages, and it's really that internal feeling of trust that needs to shine through before we make decisions, because we never know what those decisions may lead to.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, with decision making, that's something that I find that a lot of people actually sometimes struggle with, right? It's like, should I do this or should I not do that? Like, what's the right decision? And the truth is, it's so much easier than people think. Because when we are in that sort of 3D mindset of should I, shouldn't I, it's very much like there's a lot of conditioning going on in the background, like subconscious beliefs, right, based on previous experiences. When really, if you just keep bringing it back to, does this resonate with me? Does this resonate with my truth? Does this feel good for me? Then you never need to question whether this is the right decision or not, because it's the right decision for you, and that's all that matters. As opposed to, oh, this is the right way or this is the right way. So what could be right for you might not be right for someone else, right? So it's about bringing it back to just the simplicity of, does this resonate with me? Am I in alignment with this? And that, that is based on trusting yourself, trusting your intuition. And it could mean going against the masses, right? Like, 1 million people are doing this, but hey, I'm the one person that's going to do this because I'm trusting my intuition.
Oh, it makes sense. So my next question is, you are a relationship coach. Can you tell us what that means? What do you do day to day? And as I mentioned, before we started, I brought out my London Real mug in honor of you, because you are from the other side of the pond, but you are.
I'm honored, and I feel very at home. Thank you. I think I mentioned to you before, it's quite ironic because I'm currently in the States. I'm currently in Nashville, but it's good to kind of get that homely feeling with the London mug. I hope you are drinking a cup of tea.
Well, to be honest, it's water. But
well, I'll let you off. That's close. It's close to tea. So really speaking, I'm actually a law of attraction relationship coach. And what that means is I help people to manifest their soulmates, or I also help people who are currently in a relationship and looking to improve the version of that relationship. But really, the way in which I do this is all to do with like mindset. So it's about shifting, getting people to shift their mindset and to be able to shift their energy so that they are able to get the best out of their relationships, or they're able to manifest with ease their dream partner or that dream relationship using the law of attraction principles.
And could you talk a little bit more about the law of attraction principles?
Sure. So this is I do love this question because there's a lot out there about the law of attraction. Especially, so I mean, this is what sort of is out there to the masses, let's just say. People talk about law of attraction, they're like, ooh, let me manifest a car, let me visualize it, or ooh, let me visualize and manifest a relationship, or it's all to do with like, oh, if I just visualize it or if I just affirm, then I'm going to manifest. And it's interesting because the missing ingredient here is that, and what most people don't realize when they come into the law of attraction world, is that you are never not manifesting.
Explain.
So everything in your life is a manifestation, because the frequency that you are dwelling at, the thoughts that you are having, is manifesting into your reality at all times. And so then it really becomes about, are you manifesting by purpose versus are you manifesting by default? Now, manifesting by default means I am unaware about my thoughts and emotions. I have no control. So if I'm not feeling good, I'm just going to dwell in it, and I'm going to have a victim party or a pity party, and I'm not going to do anything about it. And being a deliberate creator means you're able to become aware of this and say, oh, hang on a minute, I'm feeling anger right now. How do I detach from the anger? How do I pull myself back? How do I shift my vibration to a better feeling place so that my reality can mirror something different back to me? And with that comes the acceptance that, hey, I'm responsible for everything in my reality. You have to first be able to say, you know, if somebody is being rude to you, you have to be able to say, I manifested that. Because perhaps I was in a state of fear, or because perhaps I was in a state of insecurity. And so now this is being reflected back to me because somebody's being rude to me. And then once you become aware of that, right, so awareness is key first, then it becomes about saying, okay, now that I'm aware that someone's being rude to me, now I choose something different in my reality. I choose something different. And how do I get my reality to reflect that back to me? Well, it's about choosing to shift my emotion. So I'm not in a frequency loop, where that by I'm still in a state of anger, so then I'm manifesting more things in my life to demonstrate to me anger. Like maybe I'm in traffic and I'm getting pissed off, or whatever it is that's coming into my reality. So it's really about becoming aware. Then once becoming aware, making a choice about what it is that I prefer to experience. And once I know what that is, it's then about doing something about it, deliberately shifting my emotion to a better feeling place, so that now the energy that I'm emitting out to the universe is a different frequency, so that now this can be mirrored back to me in my reality.
Interesting. And I don't know if you ever heard of Earl Nightingale.
Yes, I have.
Okay. I've been listening to his album, if you will, back then when he recorded it back in the 50s for a long time. And he likes to say the phrase, we become what we think about. We become what we think about. And so as you were talking, as you're talking about manifesting, my question back to you is, how much do thoughts play into our manifestation? So for example, if we constantly are receiving negative thoughts and we're not dismissing them, we're allowing them to enter our head and then become part of our emotion, what does that do to the outcome of reality?
So this is actually what's really happening if we were to just strip this back for a second. Most people believe that we are our thoughts, right? So it's like, whatever I'm thinking, I am. But what's really happening is this: we are not our thoughts, we are the receiver of our thoughts. Meaning, think of yourself as a magnet, right? So if I am dwelling at the frequency of fear, what is actually happening is now I'm going to attract every thought that exists relevant to fear. Now, it could be something from my past, it could be something that happened today, but all the thoughts that are a vibrational match to that frequency, I'm going to be attracting because of the law of attraction. It's like physics, right? It's a vibrational match, I'm attracting those thoughts. So what's really happening is, as I'm attracting those thoughts, there's now momentum picked up. So I'm a magnet, this is where I'm vibing at, I'm attracting these thoughts. And what happens now is I have two choices from here. I can either believe that I am my thoughts, in which case I'm just going to keep attracting more of those thoughts. And as that is happening, I'm projecting more fear into the universe, and that is therefore defining my outcome, right? But it's not the thoughts per se, it's the actual emotion of fear the thoughts give me permission to feel fear, right? And that fear is being projected out into the universe. And then what's going to happen is I am therefore going to manifest things in my life that are going to prove to me that I should be fearful. Now, this kind of ties back into what we would discuss about becoming a deliberate creator. Whereas when you kind of understand you're not your thoughts and you're just attracting your thoughts, which is dependent on your vibratory state, then what happens is you're like, if you are in that sort of negative spin of fear and you're attracting all these thoughts, you're aware and you're like, I'm not my thoughts. I'm currently residing at the vibration of fear, so I'm attracting fear. So now what am I going to do about it? And in that moment, you have the choice to, number one, observe the thoughts, right? So it means you're no longer, when you're observing your thoughts, it means that you are no longer you're no longer involved in the story that is going on. You're now detaching from it and you're saying, hang on a minute, this is thoughts that I'm attracting, but I can see that now, and you're observing it, right? So observing means you're in a state of detachment. You're not making it right or wrong. You're just saying, these are thoughts, I'm going to let them pass. And also it means that you're now in a position where you're not going to take action from that, from being in that state of fear, right? Because you're so fearful, you lash out at someone, but you're aware of it. So you're like, I'm in a state of fear. I'm not going to take action from this space of fear. And then it becomes about shifting your vibration. Because remember, I said you are a magnet, you're attracting your thoughts. So that means if I was to now shift my vibration from a space of fear to maybe a space of hope, let's say, because maybe it's too much of a jump to go from fear to love. But you can go from fear to hope, right? And there's several ways to do this. Like I always recommend changing the topic, like doing something completely different that distracts you, just to shift your vibration and get into another energy. Meditation always helps if you know how to meditate properly. And so once you've actually deliberately shifted your vibration, what will happen is you're now going to receive thoughts that are relevant to that new frequency. Thoughts of hope, thoughts of, hey, it's okay, everything's getting better. I trust that everything's always working out for me. That's going to be the kind of thoughts that you're now vibrational matched to. So really, in a nutshell, it comes down to shift your vibration, shift your thoughts. Because you're not your thoughts, you're always attracting your thoughts, depending on your vibratory state.
And I never heard of the magnet example. I like that a lot. That's easily understood, and it makes sense.
Yes.
And I guess just taking it a step further, so once you do make that deliberate change in thought pattern, now the magnet will start to attract the new thoughts.
Exactly.
The thoughts of love, or however far down
exactly
you decide to go.
Exactly, because now that is you've become a magnet that's residing in that vibration. You're going to attract every thoughts to do with hope, or to do with love, or to do with happiness. It's kind of like, if you were to take this back to a practical example, like a day-to-day example, it would kind of be like, you've had those days, right, where you're flying so high, you're feeling great, and life is just feeling amazing, and the flowers smell great, the sky is blue, and perhaps that day your partner or a friend says something to you that previously would have triggered you, right? That previously you would have found annoying, or maybe, you would have had discomfort. But because you're flying so high, you don't care. You're just like, it just bounces off of you.
You just dismiss
it. It's because what's really happening is, because you are the magnet of happiness, anything else that is less than is not a vibrational match to you. You're no longer a magnetic match to that.
Right. No, and I could talk to this firsthand, because I've been experiencing this, and it's such a great feeling that, when you think back to, your old self or your old ways, I would have been upset over something, or the way someone talked about whatever it may be. Now you just deflect it. And I could see in my own self that I'm raising my frequency, and that's helping not only me, but the people around me.
Yes.
How important?
Because that's really powerful what you just touched upon, because as you said, you are deliberately raising your frequency. And so now you are a magnet. And that means everything in your reality has to mirror that, meaning every person in your reality has to mirror that back to you. And that's what I mean by you're always manifesting 24/7. And I think it's important to realize, because so many people put blame on, well, this person is being rude to me, or this person is doing that. And the minute you do that, you disempower yourself. Whereas when you bring it back to yourself and say, hey, I'm a deliberate creator, now you're empowering yourself. And then you then take it up a notch by saying, I'm just going to focus on raising my frequency. Then you're going to rendezvous with another version of that same person that is equivalent to that frequency. They're going to be more loving to you. But guess what? That's not because now you're more lovable. It's because now you are the vibration of love.
Taking it a step further, where does
Sure.
non-judgment fit into all this? In the practice of non-judgment?
Yes. So non-judgment fits into this. So there's two types of manifestations here. There's 3D manifestation, and then there's 5D manifestation. Now, the 3D model of manifestation means there is a time lag involved. It's very action orientated. So I need to do this in order to get this. And in terms of limiting beliefs, I mean, what a lot of coaches do out there is, a lot of the times there'll be a session with clients where they're focusing on, what's your limiting beliefs? Let's go into it. Let's see where it came from, and then we'll release it. Right? So there is this focus on where everything came from. What do I need to do? It's very action orientated. Now, 5D manifestation is when you no longer need to do that. Okay, there's no time lag involved, everything's instant. And what happens is, let's say you are feeling negative emotion, right? And whenever you're feeling negative emotion, it means there's a limiting belief present within you. There is no longer a need to be like, oh, let me go into this limiting belief, let me look at it. You're just like, oh, it's a limiting belief. I know it's not true, because a limiting belief means that in this moment, my perspective and the perspective of my higher self are in opposition. And that the variance in that energy is what causes negative emotion, right? So limiting belief means it's just not true. So when you're in 5D, the minute you feel negative emotion, you're like, oh, there's a limiting belief. You don't even care what it is. You don't even need to look at it. You're just like, I don't care. All I care about right now is shifting my frequency. And the minute you do that, so the minute you're like, oh, all I care about is shifting my frequency, because you understand the rules, you understand the game, this like matrix, your manifestations start to happen at a more rapid rate. And when I say deliberate manifestations, meaning things that you desire, start to happen at a very rapid rate, because you're not taking time to go back to the past and figure out why something happened, or poor me, or oh, my parents did this when I was 5, or whatever. You just, all of that is completely irrelevant. Now it's about, I'm a deliberate creator. I just want to shift my frequency so that I can focus on the next thing that I'm going to manifest. Another thing that I want to kind of slip on the cracks here is that when you are in that 5D mode as well, you are in a state of knowing that your manifestation is coming to you, meaning you're not going out to try and make something happen, because you know it's already done. So if you want to manifest a relationship, you don't need to go on dates. You don't need to be like, oh, I need to network because I need to find the person that, the man of my dreams or the girl of my dreams. You're like, you are in this state of knowing, you're a vibrational match to your desires. And that means that any action that you are taking is for the pure joy of it, and not to try and make anything happen, because in your mind, that's already done. And everything is attracted to you, right? So you're not trying to take anymore. You're like, oh, it's all coming to me. And how non-judgment comes into this is that in this 5D model, because you're now in the state of knowing, and you're like, hey, everything's coming to you, there is no judgment. Meaning, if something happens to you, that from a 3D perspective would have caused you to be in a state of fear, right? Or maybe let's just say like you want to manifest your dream partner, if I bring this to an example, and you go on a date and the date turns out to be awful, right? If you're in a 5D perspective or state of being, that becomes complete, you don't judge it. You're like, oh, that's cool. It doesn't matter. You're not making it wrong. You're not making it right. You're like, oh, that was an interesting experience, but it doesn't trigger you in any way. Emotionally, you feel very neutral about it. You're not making it right. You're not making it wrong. You're just like, oh, cool. That doesn't matter. My manifestation's still on the way. If you're still dwelling in a 3D sort of mindset and vibratory state, what's happening is that you go on that date, you're in manifestation mode, right? I want to manifest my dream partner. You're on a date and it goes sour, and now you're like, oh, like you're fearing that your manifestation is not going to happen, or you're thinking, why is this happening? Like I was visualizing, like what's going on, right? And then you're judging it. You're judging what's happened, and you're saying, hang on a minute, I've been journaling or doing whatever, and why did this date go sour? Seeing the sort of that's the difference between the 3D model and the 5D model.
Now, I know there's going to be people that are listening and are going to say to themselves, okay, that's easier said than done. But
sure,
again,
yes.
The old me would have said that. The new me that has been really on this path
practicing
of the universal laws knows that what you're saying is true. What you're saying is accurate. But you have to get yourself to that point, right, where
yes.
you actually no longer become emotionally involved like you did before, because you know that is just, that date was part of the process to get you to where you're at.
Yeah. So yeah, what I would suggest is, like, firstly, there has to be a willingness, right? So if it's something that you desire, then it really becomes about practice. So even for myself, like we both started for a place where initially these concepts were like, oh, I want to be there. How do I get there? But there was a burning desire within us, or there was at least a willingness to say, I want to get to that place, right? That's like number one. There has to be that. Otherwise, you're just not a vibrational match to this conversation, which is fine. No judgment, right? But if you are, if you are feeling that calling and it resonates with your soul, then it becomes about, okay, how about I put this to the test, right? Because I always say, like, unless you've experienced something yourself, it's always just theory. So then it's like, let me prove this to myself. That's how I started off. I said, let me prove all this stuff to myself. So what I started to do was I started to say, okay, guess what? Any time limiting beliefs come up for me, negative emotions come up for me, I'm going to completely be like, that's irrelevant. I don't believe it. I'm going to choose something else. I'm going to nip it in the bud the minute it comes up, right? So I'm not going to give it any airtime, meaning I'm not going to allow this story to fester. I'm just going to be like, you know what? Like later, alligator, move on kind of thing. So there's that, right? There was a practice of, for me anyway, how it started off was that I just said, okay, I'm going to really put this test. I'm going to do that. And then secondly, I said, okay, every time something in my reality happens that I'm perceiving as negative, instead of seeing it as something negative, I'm going to see it as, how is this serving me? So now I'm reframing everything that's happening in my reality. How is this serving me? And so, it could be that, I always say, like, the quickest way for me to kind of reframe something into how it's serving me is to say, what clarity am I gaining from this? What I mean by that is, you always know what you want when you understand what you don't want. Right? So if something's happening to you, somebody's being rude, how's it serving me? What am I gaining? Oh, I want someone to be kind. I want someone to be kinder for me. That automatically reframes the situation into, what is it that I now desire from this? What is this showing me? This is how it's serving me. It could also be like, this is serving me because perhaps it's allowing me to get into a place of not judging this situation, or it's giving me an opportunity to be more mindful, or whatever it is, right? So whatever it is that comes up for you that you're aligned with, go with that. And then, so then what starts to happen is, as you start to really make that commitment to yourself and you start to put this into practice on a daily basis, whether it is that you work with your family, you're with your friends, you're on vacation, whatever, and you start to really practice this, such that the bottom line here of what I'm really saying is such that you say to yourself, nothing is more important than that I feel good. That is the bottom line, right? And you do whatever it is that you need to do to feel good. What you will see is that because you are now deliberately controlling your emotions, right, which you can do. People are like, oh, I can't control the way I feel. Yes, you can. It just takes practice. What will happen is things in your life will start to reflect this back to you. And what you can then do is you can correlate, hang on a minute, this is how I was feeling and this is what was happening. You can start to correlate what's going on, and you know you're doing it yourself just through these daily practices that you decided that you're going to put into motion. But the key here is to really, once you do this, to then say, to start correlating what is going on in your life experience. And you'll see synchronicities will start to occur. Things will come out of the woodworks, new opportunities will present themselves. And the beauty in all of that is that all of it will happen without you needing to make effort or to take action. Like the only effort that it would entail would be at the beginning to say, hey, these are the practices that I'm going to put into place. But once you get that ball rolling, it's like a snowball effect. It's no longer effort, because that momentum, that stream of happiness and well-being kind of just carries you through, and you're in this kind of, it's a good frequency loop to be in, let's just say.
And it's a new habit formed, right? It's a new habit.
Yes, a new habit. Yeah, absolutely.
And Priya, that was super well said and super helpful. What happens though, again, I'm trying to put myself in the place of a listener. What happens in the midst of all that? You're doing it every day, but then there's a hiccup. Then you make a mistake. What do you do? You're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. How do you get past that so you don't go the other way?
So great question. And that's really where the difference comes in, meaning the old you versus the new you, right? Because the old you would have maybe been like, oh, this is a hiccup. I'm going to sit down and wallow and get upset about this, and allow me to leave me feeling funky for a whole day or whatever it is. But now the new you is going to say, oh, okay, that's okay that this is happening, because I still now choose to be happy. I still choose my well-being over my circumstance, right? So when that's happening, this is the thing, it's actually an opportunity for you to show yourself that you are being someone different. That's how I looked at it when I first started getting into this. It was more like every time there would be contrast in my life, for me, I started seeing it as, okay, this is an opportunity to show myself that I'm not the old Priya, that I am the new Priya. How am I going to respond to this?
Right.
Not react.
Right. And I think that's a good point to make as well, that people should expect resistance when they're trying to change to a different frequency, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. When you are making a change and you are shifting your emotions and you are shifting to a higher vibratory state, there is going to be resistance, and that is part of the process. So yes, well said, that's important, that people don't think it's all sort of just like, oh, this is so easy. There will be, because it's something that you're not used to. It's something new, and there will be. And I always say this as well, it's duality needs to exist in order for you to understand your preferences, right? If you didn't experience hot water, how would you know the meaning of cold water? If there was only ever pizzas and that was the only ever food that existed, like, how would you know that ice cream is good? Right? So what I mean by that is, when the resistance comes up, instead of seeing it as something negative, how about you reframe that and see it as a clarifying moment to choose your preferences? And yes, it will come up, but understand that you need duality, you need resistance in order to understand what it is that you prefer. Because if you didn't have duality, if everything was hunky-dory, you wouldn't understand what your preferences are. You wouldn't. You'd be like, probably be more like a robot. But, you know, and also another thing actually that I think is just coming through is that understand that expansion, you're always expanding, meaning you're never going to stand still. So what you preferred a month ago is now your new baseline. You've expanded, you've experienced it. Now you're going to be called forth towards something else. So it's really kind of getting into that groove and understanding, oh, okay, it really is about expansion. It's about, this is now what I desire. I become a vibrational match to it. Great, now I'm complete with that experience. The contrast has allowed me this clarifying moment. What do I want to expand to? Because without the contrast, without the resistance, there would be no expansion. You wouldn't be able to become more. Yeah. Is that resonating?
It is. 100%. So, okay, great. This is such great conversation. Now, let's dive in real deep.
Yes.
What is love?
I love this question. So from my perspective, love is a state of being. And there's so much confusion out there in the world about love is something to do with somebody loving you, you know, even unconditional love, and it's to do with taking care of someone, or it's to do with somebody saying I love you, or how they treat you. And if you were to strip all that back for a second, right, and think to yourself, what's really going on here? Because any emotions that you are feeling is coming from within you. When you feel happy, that's coming from within you. When you feel anger, that's coming from within you. The same thing with love. That is an emotion that you are experiencing viscerally within you. Now, what happens, I'm going to use romantic relationship as an example. In romantic relationships, is that most people believe that, oh, because my partner is saying I love you, or because they've cooked me like a really nice meal, they've taken me on this amazing date, that means that they love me. Now, what's really actually happening in that moment is that your mind is using what your partner is doing as an excuse, as a permission slip, to allow yourself to feel that emotion of love. Right? So it's like, oh, they said I love you, great. They said I don't love you, oh no, now I'm going to feel unloved. But if instead I invite people to think that love is a frequency, it's a vibration, and it's to do with how you are feeling about yourself in any moment, then what you understand is you can access that at any point, whether somebody says I love you or I don't love you. Now, people normally get scared when I say that because they're like, oh, but then it means my partner's going to treat me badly or whatever. And I'm like, no, because remember that the magnet, the frequency that you are vibrating at, so i.e., let's say it's love, means that is now going to be reflected back to you in your reality by your partner, by your family, by your kids, by whoever's in your reality.
Starts with it.
Yes, exactly. And you know, on that, I want to touch upon, people talk about love, you know, in the context of giving and receiving. Now let's understand this. Let's say, for example, that today you're feeling a bit funky, and I'm just going to use your example. Your wife says to you, I'm not sure if you're married, but I love you. But because you're feeling funky, you're not a vibrational to you're not a match to the vibration of love. So as your wife is saying that to you, you don't feel loved. Doesn't matter that they're saying it to you. You're unable to feel it. And what the reason why that is because you are not a vibrational match to the frequency of love. So in terms of receiving and giving, you have to be a vibrational match to the frequency of love in order to be able to receive and give. Meaning, if you are in that, if you are tuned into the frequency of love, you're now able to, yes, to shout, to focus on somebody and to shower that. Because when you're in a state of love, you know, you adore somebody, you want to give them compliments, you whatever, right? And you're able to do that because you filled yourself up. In the same way, when somebody's saying it back to you, saying, I love you, it gives you goosebumps and you're able to feel that. It lands in your heart because you are in the vibration of love. So with relationships, what's happening sometimes is that one person will be in the frequency of love, somebody else won't be, and that's why it cannot be received, right? Received or given. But when you're both in that frequency, then you can both receive and give simultaneously. But with the understanding that because I'm in the frequency of love, I'm now able to appreciate you from this frequency.
I see.
And what can happen sometimes as well is that because somebody is really energetically, they're really in a state of love where it's so intense, they're able to uplift someone else who is in that vibrational vicinity. So perhaps somebody is feeling a little bit off, but because their partner's vibration is the one that's dominating that co-creation, they're able to be uplifted by that energy. But again, knowing that it's just them allowing themselves to tap into the frequency of love. I hope this is kind of making sense.
It is phenomenal. And it kind of all goes back to everything you've been talking about.
Sure.
Frequency of vibration, and whether it's, manifesting something or love,
yes,
or whatnot. So to answer your question, yes, I'm married. My wife and I will celebrate 24 years next week on the 24th.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's exciting.
And that leads into my next questions.
Yeah.
What is the key to a successful relationship?
I love this question again. So the key to a successful relationship is to understand that the most important relationship is the relationship that you have with yourself. Until you understand that and you really live it and you practice it, every relationship that you have, there will be contrast, right? There will be struggle. But once you understand that, you know what, the most important relationship is the relationship with myself, meaning you allow yourself to fill yourself up spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically with that cup of love, right? And meaning that, you have some sort of self-care process, whether that is that you meditate every day, you do something for yourself that allows you to get into that place, then all your other relationships will click into place. Because you would have become a deliberate manifester. You would understand, hey, hang on a second, I'm being triggered right now and I'm out of alignment, but I'm not going to act from this space of anger or from fear. Instead, I'm going to go within, shift my vibration. That's a relationship that you're having with yourself, with the understanding that when I do this, everything in my reality will reflect that back to me.
Wow.
Instead of, let's say your partner says something to you that triggers you, right? And this is what happens with 99% of people. They say something that triggers you, then you say something back, and then before you know it, you're in a massive argument, right? Where it's gotten out of control, you're saying really horrible things to each other, and that's all fine. Like, it's fine if that happens. If that happens, don't judge yourself. But just be aware that there is an easier way. And also that if you do get stuck in that cycle of being reactive to things, then what's going to happen is, because of the law of attraction and you're not controlling your emotions, you're just going to manifest more of it. So, like, the better it gets, the better it gets, the worse it gets, the worse it gets. So if you're at a point right now in your relationship where, things aren't good, and you keep focusing on that, and you're being triggered and you're reactive to that, what's really happening is that you're manifesting more of it. You're allowing it to expand. And so in order to cut that cycle and to cut through the BS and to cut that vibrational loop, you have to be willing to say, okay, this is about the relationship with myself. This is about shifting my vibration so that now I am a vibrational match to a better version of my partner.
Wow. So what if we observe our loved ones, or some of our loved ones, not in this realm of self-love, not in the realm of having that good relationship with themselves? And I'm thinking even of my children. How do you address that as a parent, say, with your child, that you could see, and maybe it's just a maturation process,
Sure.
at their current state, they're not feeling that confidence or that successful self-love?
Sure. Well, the most important thing with that is, first understand, again, it comes back to the most important relationship is the relationship with yourself. Meaning you can't help someone unless you're feeling good about yourself and you're in that state where you're feeling confident and you're in that frequency of, again, love. Because the minute you start to worry about somebody else, guess what? Now that's the projection. Now that's the thoughts that you're going to attract. Now that's the magnet that you are. How can you uplift someone from that state? So it does come back to this: first, get yourself into alignment. First, make sure that you are in a really good feeling space, so that when you are tending to somebody who you are helping, you're able to be of service to them from this space of love. Meaning that what will happen, or what tends to happen, is that because you're in this state and you've done the work on yourself, inspiration will flow through you about the best thing to do for your child or for your spouse or whoever. It will just come naturally to you, intuitively, and it will always be something that is uplifting in nature.
And I could see too how there might be some conflict even in a household where one parent might be at a higher frequency of love,
Absolutely.
the other parent might be in worry. And
Yes.
I think about my own childhood. That's probably what happened. But ultimately, what can we do to help the child, or does that child or loved one, or whoever it may be? It doesn't matter the age. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, what if there's mixed emotion, mixed signals coming from two different people?
Yeah. So again, it comes back to, if you know you're the creator of your own reality, it comes back to you staying faithful to that frequency, so that everything in your reality can mirror that back to you. Meaning the best version of your child comes through, the best version of your wife comes through, the best version of your friend comes through. But it starts with you.
That's great.
Right? So once you maintain it, and the practice is in maintaining it, am I able to see that my child, and yes, it can be challenging at first, but I promise you, as you practice, it gets easier, is in distress. Am I able to maintain my alignment and see the highest version of my child, and only see them as happy, right, in my mind? So much so that this vibration of mine is now dominating. So it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing around you. It comes back to, what are you doing? And on that note, this is what's also coming through. So I'm just going to wedge this in the cracks here, that, people talk about needing to protect yourself or protect your energy and all this. And I'm like, there's nothing to protect when you understand that you're manifesting all of it. If you understand that you have control of your vibratory state, there is nothing to protect. You understand then that you're evoking the best version of people as you are taking control of your emotions and your vibratory state.
Wow, well said, because what you just said actually reminds me of something more from the standpoint of what we're doing right now. So you're giving away free information.
Yes.
Say before the world that we have today with social media and everything, people were very protective of their intellectual property, right? But
yes,
all this free information. And I think it's really important that people understand that it's okay to give. It's okay to express yourself and give out the rules of the game to help people along.
Absolutely. And this comes from the 5D model that I just said. When you're in a 5D place, you understand that it's all coming to you. So for me, it really doesn't matter whether, I don't even see it as free information. I'm just sharing. And for me, it's irrelevant. If I know that my manifestation is already done and it's already coming, then whatever I'm doing in between is so irrelevant. I'm like, it doesn't make me feel threatened, or it doesn't make me feel worried, because I'm like, but that's already done. So everything I'm doing now is more for the joy of it. I love being on here. It's fun. You know what I mean? It resonated with me. There's no, oh, now that I'm on here, it means that, let's just say, oh, it means more clients, and that's why I have to be on here. No, it wouldn't. It's totally irrelevant, because when it's done, it doesn't matter what's going on in between. And it's really interesting. I like what you said a little, because what what happens is this: if you are in a state of protection and fear, and even with content and things like that, then what it means is that you're always going to hit a plateau, because vibrationally you are restricting yourself, right? You're saying, if I do this, it means this, and if I do this, it means this. You will never be able to really tap into like infinite abundance. You might, yeah, you will have some abundance, but you will hit a plateau.
Yeah, again,
because you have a restricted vibration within you that's saying, oh, well, I need to be careful, I need to be cautious, and that's going to be mirrored back to you. Simple. And also another thing is you understand as well, because there is like, people talk about competition in this 3D matrix. And there is no, when you really get to 5G, you understand there's no such thing as competition, because this is an abundant universe, right? It's not that if this person's getting this, then I'm getting less. No. You understand that everything is available to everyone, right? So then it just becomes like, there is no such thing as competition. There's more like the whole rising together, right? There's no jealousy, there's no competition, none of that. You're just like, yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I did a video several months ago about there is no competition. And I'm actually going to read that because it's so important. I mean, for people to understand that we don't need to compete with anyone. Be yourself, be authentic, be true.
Exactly.
Have that abundance thinking that there is no place.
Be the magnet.
That's right.
that you choose to be. Right. And it's true. And if you think about it as well, like when you do get into frequencies such as like feeling competitive, that's coming from a fear mentality. It's coming from fear and lack. So again, it's like, what are you choosing to project out to the universe? It comes back to that.
Yeah. Well, Priya, this has been an amazing conversation. I hope we can meet someday in person so we could sit down.
Yes, that would be.
That would be fun. But before I let you go, please let people know how they could reach you and maybe a little bit about what your intentions are for your future.
Yes, perfect. So if people want to reach me, they can reach me on my Instagram page, which is Priya Patten. They can also reach me through my Facebook page, which is Priya Patten XO. And really my intention is, at the moment, at least this is what I feel inspired to, is to help people to manifest their dream relationship, right? From a space of this 5D perspective that I'm sharing with you. Whether that be they're single and they decide to manifest their soulmate, or whether that be they are someone who is currently in a relationship but desire to manifest a better version of that. And really my intention is for people to experience what true love is, right? And to know that it's all within them, and for them to be able to access that on demand whenever they please. So that at the moment, that is something that I feel really passionate about sharing with the world. And I currently actually do have a 90-minute webinar, which is free, which people can sign up to via my Instagram page or my Facebook page, where it is called How to Manifest a Successful Relationship Without Compromise. So I sort of take people through that journey, and then there's an opportunity to work alongside of me if that is something that they resonate with or desire.
We'll promote that link as well when we air this episode. And one last question before I let you go. I ask every guest, at the end of the day, you have a long life ahead of you, but what are you trying to do? What's the legacy that you're wanting to leave behind?
I want people to understand that, not even to understand, to experience who they truly are, meaning that they are God or source manifested into this 3D world. But I want them to understand that they have this, to experience even how powerful they truly are, and to have fun.
Priya Patten, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the American Real family. And
thank you.
Do this again in person.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me here. I had fun and it's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into American Real. Be sure to visit our website, americanreal.tv, or search for us on iTunes or YouTube for past episodes. While you're there, please rate us or leave us a review, as that helps others find our show. I am truly grateful and appreciate all of your support. If you'd like to be part of our inner circle or want one-on-one coaching, check out the American Real Learning Academy, where we have self-help groups and courses so you can build the best you. We also have a new Facebook group where you can connect with high achievers from around the world. If you want to go even further, maybe you're determined to write your own book or launch your own podcast, contact me today to see if we could help. You can reach me through Instagram or Facebook, or email me directly at roger@americanreal.tv. And speaking of podcasting, our next course will be starting soon. So if you're interested in launching your own podcast, join me and Podcast Your Passion. I'll take you through my 8-week course where I'll mentor you to build a world-class podcast. I'm only taking on a small group of people who want to share their passion through broadcasting, where I'll have you up on iTunes and YouTube within weeks so you can podcast your passion. Click on the link below for more information.